radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. How you doing? Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Today's Tuesday, September 25th, 2018. 271 days into the new year, just 94 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? Yeah. What a night last night on the show. Mitch Horowitz. Amazing conversation. What a great week we've got lined up for you. And tonight, very special guest, John Greenewald, will join us to talk about the Japan Airlines UFO incident. That's right. As well as some new UFO info on AATIP, Freedom of Information Act. Now, one document has surfaced. John Greenewald has released it. We're going to talk about that document tonight, and it's going to be a great show. The Japan Airlines UFO encounter, I'm going to get to that in just a minute, is one of the great, most documented UFO encounters on an official level in world history. And so we're going to discuss that. There's so much about this story. And John has been on it for over 17 years. So tonight we're going to discuss all of that. And, of course, AATIP. What is AATIP? I know. And tonight we're going to continue to keep our foot on the gas and try to figure this situation out. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Tomorrow night, Julia Mossbridge, PhD, will be here to talk about precognition and time travel with her new book, The Premonition Code. That's tomorrow night. Thursday night, no Fader night, okay? Thursday night is our fourth show this week with Dean Radin, PhD. He's going to be here. And that is a show which goes with everything that we've done this week. Dean Radin, it like with Mitch Horowitz, right? Dean Radin, John Greenewald is another one, and Julia Moss. These are people that I've wanted to interview for a very long time. And John Greenewald's another one. I wanted to interview John forever. I remember, he's been on the show with us many times now, but I remember it's probably 3 years ago, at the MUFON Symposium, which was here in Southern California. But John's there. He was the announcer, the MC. And I walk up to him in the lounge. I'm like, so, John, when are you going to do the show? Man, we're going to do it soon. We're going to do it soon. It took like 2 years. Right? He was having a baby and, his wife. And he had all these things going on, plus the Black Vault and everything else. And he's a producer of television programming. So he's just a busy guy. But, and we're knocking all of it out this week. So tonight is John Greenewald, and I can't wait for Thursday. Dean Radin is finally going to be here. And please head over to OnStellar, onstellar.com, ONSTELLAR.com. Get registered. It is the great social media platform. And, today I was working with the guys over at OnStellar and, looking at some new stuff that's coming out. Well, anyway, I'm looking at that and I'm going back and I'm looking at OnStellar and comparing it to other stuff and looking. I'm going to tell you, man, that is a great looking platform. It is just so well thought out and just so well done. I'm just so happy with OnStellar, onstellar.com, and get over there, get registered, and see what everybody is talking about. I talk about it every night here on the show. It's so much fun. I spend zero, and when I say zero time on Facebook. Zero. And Facebook, and especially back in the day, was so much a part of launching Jimmy Church Radio. And I'm talking about going back to 2008, 2009, 2010. And for what we do here and the amount of fans and friends that we have made and stuff, I get that. And compared to the old day, I spent absolutely zero time on Facebook. None. And you might be posting important stuff over there. It's the platform. It's not the people. It's the platform, So anyway, go over to onstellar.com. That's where it is. No advertising, no tripping, no data collection, nothing. You have no idea what it's like. You've forgotten, right? What it's like to sit on a platform like that and communicate and share and make friends without an advertisement in sight. It'll change you, man. It'll take you right back where you need to be, onstellar.com. Twitter, of course, at JChurchRadio. Facebook is just plugging along. We just automatically do post over there, and I poke around once in a while and might click a like, but, whatever, Facebook. But, of course, YouTube, we do post up there, and everything is easy to find over at our website, jimmychurchradio.com. And if you want to hang out with us on Twitter, hashtag F2B is what you want to do. That is the sandbox, hashtag F2B. Any questions or comments, use hashtag F2BQ. What? That's cool. That's cool. That's funny. That's going to get a retweet right there. Who did this? That is funny. Sukalos and Duchovny in front of a Fade to Black banner. I'm going to send this to Sukalos right now. Here we go. I got to do this. I got to do this before this gets away from me. Giorgio, have you seen this? Check out the background. There you go. I'm doing this in real time. I got, sometimes stuff just has to happen. There you go. All right. I just sent that to Giorgio. That's cool. That's funny. That is funny. All right. Well, now I just lost my whole train of thought. That was funny. Who created that? The Bill. The Bill. That's good. That's good. That is funny. Okay. All right. Where am I? You can email me, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Breaking news today. Bill Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison and was taken into custody immediately, straight to the county jail in handcuffs from the courtroom. And then earlier this evening, he was transported to the Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution at Phoenix to begin serving his prison sentence for sexual assault. When Cosby arrived earlier tonight, he was given a uniform, basic toiletries, linens, towels, and state-issued boots. Seriously. Now, SCI Phoenix is a maximum security state prison in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, about 25 miles where Cosby was tried in Montgomery County. I'm going to tell you something. You're a kid, commit a crime, I'm saying a kid, under the age of 30, whatever. And you go to jail, you can adapt. You get those state-issued boots, whatever. But when you get to the age of 80 and living the life of luxury like Cosby did, and you're suddenly wearing state-issued underwear, you go from some silk to that. Yeah. I don't know what kind of thread count he was laying on with his Egyptian cotton sheets, but that's not what you get at the state pen. And that has just got to be a really strange night tonight with Bill Cosby. There you go. Also, earlier today, I watched it live. Will Smith bungee jumped out of a helicopter earlier today, 1,000 feet into the Grand Canyon, live on YouTube. And in case you don't know, he survived, right? I was asking Rita, did you watch it? She goes, anything happen? I said, no. She goes, no, I didn't watch it. But yeah, and actually it was pretty bleeping nuts to watch when you think about it. They've got multiple cameras and helicopters and views, and it was it was pretty dramatic to watch him go backwards out of that helicopter. I posted a few screenshots of the live feed on Twitter. I didn't get shut down yet by YouTube for using probably copywritten images, but that's just the way it goes. I just stole it right off the screen. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I'm admitting it right now. Okay, I didn't profit off of the images, but it was pretty nuts. And I'm looking at the pictures now. This first one is Smith leaning over into the helicopter. You can see this is just before they took off, and that's it. I mean, that's right before they took off. And the next shot is when he dropped and came back up, and he was screaming. They had him mic'd up and everything. And there's another one as it started to settle down a little bit, and he's turning around looking back, and there you go. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. I would never do it, but he did, and I got to give him credit for that. All right, tonight John Greenewald is here. I cannot wait for this. We're going to cover the Japan Airlines UFO encounter, as well as the only Freedom of Information Act document to surface concerning AATIP. We've got all of that for you tonight, so get ready. John will be with us at the bottom of the hour. Happy birthday to today, of course, Will Smith, who is 50 years old. He did the bungee jump on his 50th birthday. Years ago, when I worked for Lisa's, I went out did many trips out to Will Smith's house out in, just out in Westlake in that area. He doesn't live there anymore. But I went out to his house and had to work on a studio that he was building out in his garage. He had like a spare bedroom maid's room or something like that, housekeeper's thing, that he had was converting into a little studio. So I went out there and got to hang out with him for, it covered about a month. I suppose I was probably out there 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Had dinner with him a couple of nights, and he's a really cool dude. And it was just the two of us hanging out for hours and hours getting that studio set up, and it was a really great experience. And I think he's a cool guy. And watching him go through that today at the age of 50, kind of puts things all in perspective. And today, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. And that was probably 1990, right after Independence Day came out, like right before Men in Black, like, somewhere in there, 1995, maybe 96, 95. Will Smith today is 50 years old. Mark Hamill today, that's right, Luke is 67. And Michael Douglas today is 74. Our dead guy's birthday, Christopher Reeve, 1952 to 2004, died at the age of 52. Star of course, Superman in 1978, and then was tragically paralyzed in a 1995 horse riding accident, and then passed away in 2004. On this day in history, 2005, 2 months after announcing its intention to disarm, the Irish Republican Army, the IRA, gives up its weapons in front of independent weapons inspectors. It was a crazy day back in 2005. Fate or fact? Are you ready for this? I know you thought about this, but you probably didn't know it was actually a fact. In 2013, Chinese scientists were able to grow a human tooth from scratch using stem cells taken from, wait for it, urine. And that is your fate or fact. Yeah. Yep, they said it couldn't be done. It can be. You can regrow teeth. Tonight, John Greenewald is here. Tomorrow night, Julian Mossbridge is going to join us. We're going to talk some time travel and her new book, The Premonition Code. Thursday night, Dean Radin is going to be here. We're all looking forward to that. 4 nights, 4 shows, 4 amazing guests right here on Fade to Black. Now, I want to talk about Japan Airlines because out of all of UFO history, and we've got, of course, we've got the things that we talk about and know about. Roswell, Rendlesham, right? These are Kecksburg, right? These are incidents that we know about, we talk about. But Japan Airlines, Flight 1628, and that UFO encounter is just insane. It's insane. Now, it occurred in November 17th, back in 1986. Okay? 22 years ago. Involving a Japanese Boeing 747-200F cargo aircraft. The aircraft was en route from Paris to Narita International Airport near Tokyo with a cargo of wine. Now, on the Reykjavik to Anchorage section of the flight over eastern Alaska, the crew first witnessed 2 unidentified objects to their left. These abruptly rose from below and closed in and started to escort the 747. What transpired after this, and still to this day, I have never forgotten the eyewitness testimony and everything that was presented about this case. But it got nuts. Each of these UFOs that popped up had 2 rectangular arrays of what appeared to be, as described, glowing nozzles or thrusters, right? Their bodies remained obscured. They couldn't really see it because it was dark outside. When closest, the aircraft's cabin was lit up. Yes. And the captain sitting on the left could feel the heat on his face. These 2 craft departed. They split, and then there was a third huge disc-shaped object. And again, I'm going to get to this in a second. That because disc shape may not be that accurate. And that started to trail them. At that point, Anchorage Air Traffic Control requested an oncoming United Airlines flight to confirm the unidentified traffic. But when it and military craft arrived on the scene and sighted JAL flight number 1628, they didn't see anything. The sighting itself lasted for 50 minutes, and it ended in the vicinity of Mount Denali. The third craft, the third one that I joined, the two split, was described as a walnut, a giant walnut. When I say giant, just listen to this. At least the first two of the objects were observed by all three crew members. That's Captain Kenju Terauchi, an ex-fighter pilot with more than 10,000 hours of flight experience. And he was in the cockpit's left-handed seat, like I said earlier. Co-pilot Takanori Tamafuji, he was in the right-hand seat. And flight engineer Yoshio Tsukuba. Where the first objects disappeared, Captain Terauchi had noticed a pale band of light that mirrored their altitude, speed, and direction. Anchorage found nothing on their radar, but Elmendorf's NORAD Regional Operations Control Center, directly in his flight path, reported a huge primary return, and that is NORAD. As the city lights of Fairbanks began to illuminate the object, Captain Terauchi believed to perceive the outline of a gigantic spaceship on its port side that was twice the size of an aircraft carrier. I'm quoting directly from Captain Terauchi. In December 1996, Captain Terauchi gave an interview to two Kyoto, Japan news journalists. Japan Airlines then grounded him for talking to the press, and then ended up moving him to a desk job. Years and years later, he got to fly again for a little bit, then he just retired. But that's what happened. He talked to the press, and they immediately grounded him and made him a pencil pusher. The Japan Airlines sighting got tons of attention from the media. I caught on to it. We actually, and if you think about this, we actually had tracking of UFOs on both ground and airborne radar while being observed by experienced airline pilots and subsequent confirmation by an FAA division chief. This was a very, very, very big deal. But it didn't end there, because 3 months later, in January 1987, Alaska Airlines Flight 53 observed a fast-moving object on their onboard weather radar. While at 35,000 feet on a flight from Nome to Anchorage, the radar registered a strong target in their 12 o'clock position at 25 miles. And then, on the very next day, on January 30th, a U.S. Air Force KC-135 jet flying from Anchorage to Fairbanks once again observed a very large disc-shaped object, right? The pilot reported that the object was just 40 feet from the aircraft. Then the object disappeared from sight. So what was going on in the skies above Alaska for those 3 months? We've got it all with these cases. We've got not only, the official of official reports from the military, the Air Force, the FAA, right? We've got civilian reports. We've got the direct testimony. We've got radar tapes. We've got radar tapes from the air and the ground. We've got eyewitnesses from the very seasoned flight crew, not only from Japan Airlines, but also from our own Air Force, right? We've got everything that is needed for this case. But what happened to the evidence? The case itself, when it hit, and the interviews with Captain Terauchi, and his description and his drawings, and an FAA division chief, I believe his name was John Calhoun, We'll talk to Greenewald about that in just a minute here. He had the radar tapes, and all of this was reviewed by the Navy and an admiral, and they're looking at the interviews that were presented and the debriefing that was done by the pilots. And they knew that they had something here, and they had to squash it. And then the paperwork disappears. Now, the amount of paperwork, as it turns out, we're going to talk to John, turned out to be a mountain. But that's not what we were told originally. And even that gets a little bit funky. So what do you do when you try to squash a case? Well, and especially like this. We never really officially heard from the KC-135 pilot. Nope. Alaska Airlines Flight 53? Nope. Japan Airlines, Captain Teriyuchi? What happened there? Desk job, grounded, disappeared, retired. Tonight, we're going to discuss one of the most important cases in all of ufology. The Japan Airlines UFO encounter is huge. And tonight, the evidence is now out. Greenewald has got it and has released it after so many years of looking for it. And also tonight with John Greenewald, AATIP. I'm not even going to say what AATIP is because I don't know. We've been looking for Freedom of Information Act documents on it in any form. One has been released. John Greenewald has just published it. We're going to talk about that and how he got to it, and including the Japan Airlines documents too as well. And that's how diligent John Greenewald is with the Black Vault. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. It's going to be an amazing night tonight. So just get comfortable, get ready, and let's get all of this just out in the open. It needs to be there. Look, I know that Twitter, I can't get out of here without saying this. I know that Twitter, I reached out and made it pretty public about bringing on Tom DeLonge or Luis Elizondo onto the show tonight. Open invitation publicly, just to let them know, right? Okay. And I'm not going to say anything further than that, but I did get a response back from To the Stars and from Tom, and now is not the time. But other than that, I am not going to say anything more. The relationship between To the Stars and Fade to Black is fine. I know that everybody out there wants to create some story and some drama that doesn't exist. Okay? All right. I'm going to get out of here. John Greenewald's up next. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. You can certainly reach out to me, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com via email. Twitter is at jchurchradio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. And now John Greenewald on Twitter is at BlackVaultCom. You go make sense out of that. I'll be right back with our guest, John Greenewald. Stay with me.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on jimmychurchradio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Times are changing. The circus of politics, healthcare's low standards and high prices, and let's not forget food quality. What to do? Arm yourself with Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. In a world of chemical imbalance and poor air and water quality, it's time you make a move. Log on to getthetea.com and stock up on organic non-GMO supplements. Don't forget the tea. Cleansing your body never felt so good. And we have a brand new tea called Takedown Tea, which helps support healthy glucose. All natural body support so you can be at your best, naturally. All you have to do is log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. We're not a fad that comes and goes. We are the real deal. Join us and armor up. Getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Changing America's health one tea bag at a time.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find Fast Start Diet on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, Fast Start will include their #1 rated Lipo-3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. This is Jimmy Church. And whatever your diet plans are, do what I did. Go to faststartdiet.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, John Greenewald is here. That's right. Tomorrow night, Julia Mossbridge is here. Thursday, Dean Radin. Right? 4 nights, 4 shows, 4 amazing guests. Tonight, it is John Greenewald. We're going to discuss the JAL 1628 Japan Airlines UFO encounter and the recent revelations on AATIP. Is it aviation or aerospace? We're going to try to figure that out tonight. John began researching the secret inner workings of the U.S. government in 1986 at the tender young age of 15. Targeted such groups as the CIA, the FBI, Pentagon, Air Force, Army, Navy, NSA, DIA, countless others. Greenewald utilized the Freedom of Information Act to gain access to thousands of records. He accumulated an astonishing number of documents on topics related to UFOs, the JFK assassination, chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons, and top secret aircraft. He eventually named this archive the Black Vault. That's right. His teenage project turned into the largest private online collection anywhere in the world, with millions of pages of material. At the age of 21, he published his first book, Beyond UFO Secrecy, and then it was later put into a second expanded edition back in 2002 and was republished by Gald Press in January 2008. The website, of course, is theblackvault.com. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only, the very young and tender, John Greenewald. John, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
You put us through a scare this weekend, so I'm just going to tell everybody that on Saturday, I'm driving over to Coast to host, and the announcement came over the emergency broadcast system here in Southern California that your neighborhood was on fire. I'm not going to disclose exactly or what or where. That's up to you. But I called you, and you were safe and sound, but it was pretty close to you, wasn't it?
Not as close as the one last year, but yeah, I appreciate that. It's it's the beautiful Southern California city named Castaic. We've got 2 lakes up here, and it's a beautiful place. But sadly, we learned we just moved up here last February of 2017. It's a pretty high fire area. So last year was a bigger scare. This one, not so much, but definitely air quality was an issue. But hey, we're still here. Fire's out, and we look forward to the next one.
Yeah, that's just the way it plays out here. And as crazy as it may sound to the rest of the country, it's where we live. It's hot, it's dry, it's a desert. It just so happens that we, planted palm trees and grass here, but it's a desert. That's it. We're never.
It really is.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will say one thing about the city of Castaic. When we moved up here, it's still considered Los Angeles. It's like the farthest reaches of LA County that you can get. And I literally have deer coming into my driveway near our cars. That's how. Now in Los Angeles, that's like, are you kidding? That's unheard of. And so there's trade-offs. Yes, it's a high fire area, but man, you just see some really cool, beautiful stuff.
Yeah, you do. And last year, it happened to us right here in Burbank when, woke up in the morning and my daughter comes in and she goes, and I was like, what? I thought, this is what I thought, because I could smell it. I thought, why would somebody be burning wood in their fireplace in the middle of the summer? That's what I was thinking. And so I just kind of, but I didn't walk to the front of the house. I was out back and I didn't see it. My daughter goes, you got to come out front. And I walked out front. I was like, we got some issues here. I mean, that was...
The sky goes from a beautiful blue to a really scary orange in a matter of minutes. And that's how you know, something's coming. We got to make sure it's not in our backyard.
Yeah.
So it's a scary time, when you see that sky turn to yellow. And that definitely happened this weekend.
Yeah. You immediately do those things. You start to, okay, what do we grab just in case? The evacuation streets were 1 block to our south and like 4 blocks to the east. Right there. And we were just in this one little pocket, but everything else was getting evacuated. And you start to think to yourself, okay, dogs, check. Okay, they go first, right? Of course, Rita and I and our daughter, yes. But where do we go from there? What else do we take with us? But yeah, it was a very, very trippy thing to go through. But anyway, you're safe. All right.
Yep, safe. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. And now the Japan Airlines, I want to get straight to it because we've got a lot to discuss tonight. And out of all of UFO history, we've got 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, 9, 10 cases that we can look at the documentation and the eyewitnesses and the government and civilian side of things that rate right up there, right up there. Japan Airlines is right up there with any other case that we can mention. And it broke big into the media. And I set it up in the opening of the show tonight. But for you, in running the Black Vault, we're going to get to the documents in a second. But for you, when you look at everything that we have concerning the Japan Airlines encounter. How does that case rate with you with all of the other encounters out there?
When you have commercial airline and military pilots, pilots for me are fascinating just simply because these are guys and gals that know exactly what's in the sky, how they fly, and how they operate. So they have a background to readily identify whether it be a fellow commercial jet airliner or another military aircraft. Of course, they're not going to be versed on 100% of what's flying in the sky, but they are definitely better qualified than myself if they're flying at 30,000 feet to understand what might be seen outside their window. Flight 1628 is something that's been around the UFO field, longer than I've been in it. It was something that's been very well known and something that has been written about in many books. And when I learned about this very early on in my research, when I started, like you pointed out, I started back in 1996, and I was 15 years old. And of course, 1628 is one of those more well-known UFO cases. And it was always something that stuck out in my head as something like, hey, there's something to this. When a pilot sees something, that's not something that you can just kind of explain away as far, a farmer in the middle of Kansas.
Oh, we lost John. Are you there, John?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, we lost you.
Yeah.
Okay, a farmer in the middle of Kansas, and then you went silent.
Yeah. No, I'm still here. So yeah, there's a difference between a pilot sighting and, again, somebody on the ground that might be seeing something that's easily explainable. So when I filed a Freedom of Information Act request to the FAA, this was back in 2001, 17 years ago, that I tried to get documents on Flight 1628. And this is one of the most bizarre FOIA cases. And I've done now about 9,000 requests in 22 years. Now, those are original requests. Those are not follow-up letters. So when you add in all the follow-up letters, there is an insane amount of correspondence. And so when I went after this and in 2001, I was told by the FAA that they considered me a commercial requester. Now, under the FOIA, you fit into three different categories: commercial, non-commercial, and news media. And at the time, I was non-commercial. Now I fit into news media, but at the time, non-commercial. They tried to put me in commercial, and what it really ultimately comes down to is fees that you have to pay. And when you pay these fees, it's determined by the category that you fit in. So she told me in this letter, if you withdraw your request, because you're in a commercial category, if you withdraw your request, then we will go ahead and give you 107 pages for free. You're still there, right?
I'm listening. I'm reading the document. Right. I'm blown away.
I was making sure I didn't get. I was making sure I didn't get disconnected. So they said if you withdraw your request, we'll give you these 107 pages for free. Now I can tell you, out of the 9,000 requests that I've done, I do not have a single case that I can cite where they said, if you withdraw your request because we'll charge you money, withdraw it, we'll give it to you for free. There's no procedure for that. That's not part of the law. That is not standard. Nobody does that. So I received this letter and I thought, okay, well, they're considering me a commercial requester. Do I fight it? They're telling me they'll give it to me for free, 107 pages. So I chose not to fight it. Why fight it? Just withdraw the request, get it for free.
Now, let's stop. Let me stop you right there.
Sure.
107 pages is all that was discussed. And that is a very important thing that we're going to discuss later on tonight. Had you heard anything beyond about anything additional, page 108, 109, 110?
No.
It was always
and
107.
in fact, I now have that letter But they said that there was a total, and what I request, just to very quickly say it, my request for it was for all documents on Flight 1628. Now, when I request something that's fairly specific like that, I go for the whole gamut. I want memos. I want letters. I want reports. I want everything that they have created about this. Now, in some cases, they'll come back to you and say, well, that's too broad because that'll get you 50 million pages, so round it down, and then I'll whittle it down. But in something like this, I went for the whole kit and caboodle. And requesting the whole kit and caboodle yielded me 107 pages, according to the FAA. And according to them, and this comes from the headquarters, it was a letter dated June 27, 2001. I've got it all in writing with signed statements and FOIA case numbers. They said that there was only 107 pages that came up as response. My request.
Now, and I'm reading here, this is what's really funny, and I will forward the 107 pages to you on receipt of your withdrawal.
Yeah. and that doesn't, and I'm telling you, I'm going to stress this again, and I know I'm repeating myself, but 9,000 cases. I don't have a single case where they've ever done that before.
Right.
I have had it where they've tried to say, hey, you're a commercial requester. You need to pay, for every single page and search fees. And search fees can range anywhere from $35 to literally $85 to $125 an hour. And for the government, we know they're not speedy. So you're paying some sloths to, try and find records. And so 100 hours later, you're broke. So being in a commercial category is very, very, very bad. Some people fit in that category. I do not. And so I chose not to fight it on this one. But I don't have any other cases where they said, withdraw your request. And we'll go ahead and give them to you. It's unheard of. But that is what they did on this one.
And for her to say that if we don't, as of this date, blah, 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 if we don't get your withdrawal, all documents pertaining to this UFO sighting will be destroyed in 30 days from the date of this letter. Now, that seems a little funky to me, too.
That is beyond funky. And again, no procedure, no manual, no law, no amendment, no nothing ever justifies the destruction of a responsive record. Now, there are what's called records retention schedules. This is important. Record retention schedules exist for every agency. And in short, what those are is they stipulate how long a government agency will keep records. So, some records are ultimately destroyed after a certain amount of time. Others are transferred to the National Archives and so on. Every agency is different. That is a completely different ballpark than this letter. And this letter says the 107 pages, now that you've requested them, now we've put a bomb on them that's 30 days and counting. So if you don't respond, we're just going to destroy them all. Again, 9,000 cases, never had a single example of that ever happening. And yet this particular case, they wanted to destroy those 107 pages. There's no way that my request hit them around a 30-day window of their records retention schedule stating that they were going to destroy these things. No, the odds of that are 1 in a billion. There's no way. Yet they said, if you don't respond, they're gone.
So tell me you
destroyed.
responded, right? You responded.
Absolutely. And so I withdrew the request. I did it via email. Now, the letter said an email. I know I sent that email. I have it in my own record keeping and was sent the email. Now, I will say I would love to show a screenshot of it. This was 17 years ago, so things are a little bit different on the technology front, and that was quite a few computers ago, and sadly, that particular one had a hard drive crash. But, it is what it is. I sent the withdrawal. There's no... In my mind, there's no argument. I know I sent it to this particular lady at the FAA. So I withdrew the request, but I didn't hear anything back for a while. And so I followed up with her and said, hey, I'm just trying to follow up and see when I'm going to get those documents because I withdrew the request. This is why this is not part of a standard procedure when you withdraw a request. The moment you withdraw a FOIA request, you have no legal standing anymore to ask for anything. The FOIA gives you a legal standing to fight for records. Okay, there's a lot of rules that go along with that, but you can at least put up a legal battle, and you have some kind of foothold into the door of whatever agency to access records.
Right.
The moment you step out of FOIA, which is what they required me to do, I have no rights, in essence. I can't appeal. I can't ask for a status, technically. And although I did write her and say, hey, what's going on? You told me if I withdrew the request. They claimed that they did not hear from me, and so they destroyed all of the records. And I was pretty shocked at that point, just simply because I know for a fact I sent that email. And again, this was a very unorthodox way that it all unfolded. But now we were beyond the 30-day window when I did the follow-up. Of course, in retrospect, looking back, I would have done this a lot differently. But again, this was something that I just didn't think would go down the way that it went down. And she said that everything was destroyed and that I was out of luck.
And that was in 2009.
No. This was still 2001 when I followed up.
Oh, okay. So fast forward to 2009.
I didn't wait 8 years to follow up. Although I have records of 14 and a half years of waiting for FOIA requests. So, but I did wait a couple months to follow up in 2001. Now 2009 I filed again, and the reason was because what I've learned is sometimes as record keeping technology changes and they make changes within agencies and personnel changes, you get one answer in 2001, you get a different one in 2009.
Right.
So I had refiled 8 years later in the hopes that maybe they found other copies or discovered something, or I'll be honest with you, maybe this person wasn't working there anymore, and then I would get somebody that actually worked a little harder and found them.
Right.
So that's what I did, and 2009 was another confirmation that all of those documents were destroyed.
Yep, I'm looking at the letter here, and it says right here, the records you requested were destroyed in accordance of blah 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 blah. But yeah, it's very clear, and that's August 26th, 2009. And
that's correct.
And here you are today on Fade to Black, right? 2018.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 2018.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened next?
So what happened next was, well, like you said, fast forward 17 years after my initial request. I'm going through, some archives and indexes of the National Archives, and by mistake find a file folder that talked about a 1986 UFO incident with Japanese Airlines. Well, if you've been around UFOs enough, that's kind of only one case.
Right, that is only one case. But help me out here. I don't want to interrupt, but I have to.
No problem.
You say that you're going through the National Archives and you find a folder, is this on a computer, or are you physically at the National Archives at a file cabinet? What do you mean by that?
So this is a digitized collection, and it's one of the many, many government databases that are out there that I, geek out and trying to access. And they're very difficult to use, but in this particular case, it was digital. And so these file folders were eventually digitized by a National Archives personnel, and they just, I don't know if there's an order that they scan things in, if it's random, if it's by request. Nobody's ever talked about these specific records that I've heard of. Now, some of these records had been out before. Obviously, they had been requested before, and I'll get into the bigger history in a minute, but it'll be a little confusing if I do it now. But that's what I mean. This was a digital discovery when I found references to file folders. So when it's digitized, the file folders at the National Archives, they're given ARC identifier numbers, and then or NARA identifier numbers, and then they're titled by the folders or envelopes that they're discovered in within the National Archives. And so you can randomly find just really amazing things from history. I mean, it really is something that is experience. If you love history, or anybody that is listening loves history, I highly recommend either do it on a digital level and just kind of search through some of these databases. More so, go and thumb through the physical archives. It's something that I've done quite a few times. And in fact, my very first experience was at the National Archives in D.C., and I was there with my good friend Stanton Friedman. And to sit next to the Stanton Friedman within the National Archives and going through physical pieces of paper was an experience that I'll definitely never forget. But going back to your question, so this particular collection was digitized in a massive amount of information, not just UFOs, I mean, all sorts of stuff. I just got lucky and stumbled on some of the digital references to these file folders. So that's when I started to dig a little bit, because the moment I saw Japanese Airlines, I thought, this can't be, because they've been destroyed. But on top of that, they came from an FAA titled record group. So everything within the National Archives is all sorted in this massive collection of record groups. And then you drill down in the records group, and most of them are per agency. So the FAA has a massive record group, and then you drill down in that record group, and then it kind of, branches off into all these other different sections and so on.
Right.
So this particular one was from the Alaska region.
Okay, let me jump in real quick. We got to hit a break here, John. The original number was 107 pages that they referenced to you that were destroyed. In this folder, how many pages did you find?
Over 1,500, and it wasn't just the one folder. I got lucky finding the one. I dug quite a bit more and found there were 41 total envelope/folders, and then digging within those 41 groups, there was over 1,500 pages, all relating to the UFO sighting on 16/28.
That's the Holy Grail. Now, what are the what are the odds of that? Well, you don't have to answer that question. I've got to head towards a break. But can anybody go into the National Archives? Do you need some kind of clearance, or can anybody sign in and go and poke around?
No, you do have to sign up, but there's no prerequisite. I mean, you just go in with a valid ID and sign up. When you're physically there, you go in and sign in. You get a cool little magic card that gets you access. You got to wear gloves in many cases when you access the original records, and that's what's very cool about it is you're accessing the real physical documents in most cases.
And what
about you're pulling these?
Right. Well, and what about the digital archive? Who can access that?
Depends on the digital archive. Some you can just log on right now. Others you need to be on a certain computer and access it from certain libraries or approved places. So it's by IP address.
Right.
It's thoroughly confusing. It really is, because the different databases require you to be in different areas. Again, it's not because it's classified. It's just sadly they do limit access to some databases, but not all. So you can actually go on the National Archives website now, and you can start sifting through, government documents and, pick some keywords and start going through and see what you find. I mean, there's an amazing collection.
Man, I want to do it. I mean, I'm serious.
Do it. I'm telling you, you make discoveries you wouldn't believe.
That's incredible. Let's take a break right here. We'll come back. We'll start going through these documents and what happened next. It is one of the most important cases in all of UFO history. And John, seriously, man, it's like you backed out of your driveway and just ran right over it, and it just good for you. John Greenewald, the Black Vault, is here. Later on tonight, we're going to talk about the lone AATIP document that he happened to find in his Freedom of Information Act request. I'll be right back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your Jimmy Church. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official FADERNIGHT by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only use night vision goggles from Bearing Optics. You can see your very own green chrome balls today by clicking on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, John Greenewald of the Black Vault. We're discussing the Japan Airlines JAL Flight 1628 UFO encounter and the document treasure trove that he discovered in the National Archives quite by chance. And, you know, John, it's called synchronicity, man. That's the universe. That's the electric universe working in your favor right there. This was meant to happen. 17 years, man. It is the hero's journey.
Well, it was unexpected. I'll give it that. And I was pleased to find them, and also equally pleased to see what was inside the 41 folders of material that was far beyond what I really expected.
Now, I've posted up on Twitter, everybody. You can head over to hashtag F2B or my Twitter feed at JChurchRadio. The links are right there to take you straight to JAL 1628 page on the Black Vault. where all of the documents, PDFs, are all right there. And you can actually download the entire set as a zip file, too, as well. John, you're so cool when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'm
Geeky,
serious.
Cool, I'll take whichever.
Yeah, that is way. You know what? I was going to say that earlier. You poking around in the National Archives digitally into folders and finding something like this is the ultimate geeky thing to even admit to. I mean, that is straight
I'll
geek,
take
man.
it.
That is straight geek. That is geek to find.
Yeah, no, but I love it, and I live for stuff like that because, again, you just, and you said it, 17 years. Imagine that long. And I've talked about this a lot in public, speeches that I give, and I love it in interviews. I don't know if I've brought it up on Fade to Black before, but probably, in the past, however many years we've known each other. And so when you're so used to telling a story a certain way that, hey, these documents are gone, they're lost, they're destroyed, and it kills me inside just because I love history so much. Whenever I get word, not only on Flight 1628, but I've received quite a few letters over the years of documents being destroyed. It kills me inside. To discover after 17 years of being used to that story, to just say, poof, here's the 107 plus about 1,400 more, it was a pretty surreal discovery. And I'm still going through them too. I mean, this literally just happened days ago. I mean, I think it was Thursday when I got everything digitized and uploaded uploaded and programmed into the site. And, here we are just a few days later.
Now, I want to take the opportunity here just to mention to our audience, you've been producing television for a long time, of course, the Black Vault, and you've, written your book and stuff, but just recently you've decided to get into broadcasting, and you've started your own little radio program. And so where can everybody listen to that, and when and where do you do it?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I started the Black Vault Radio. I did it many years ago, and in fact, I've done quite a few different things in radio. The late Dr. Roger Lear, who was a friend of mine for many, many, many years, Dr. Lear and I actually hosted a radio show together for quite some time called Millennium Mysteries. And I actually found a bunch of old interviews that we did, and this is probably going back 13, 14 years, maybe a little bit more. I'll try and figure out the dates. But anyway, so I've played around with radio for quite some time. And then now I went ahead and took the plunge, started producing some audio shows where people can download different interviews, news headlines. I profile documents all the time in different segments. So I try to do something a little bit different than traditional radio. No clock, so I don't adhere to, hey, we got a commercial coming up. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just did it a little bit different. You can log on to theblackvault.com. On the right-hand side, you'll see all of the different episodes that I've done so far. There's probably about 24, 25 hours of content already to download with a lot more coming. So still fairly new, but the feedback has been awesome. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you.
It's a lot of work to do this kind of stuff, and any way that I can help and let others know that you're doing this. That's what we do here. It's just family, man. Now let's get to this document archive. There is so much here. You just stated that you're still going through it, which I can appreciate. You've only had your hands on these for a few short days and breaking the story here on Fade to Black. I appreciate that. But let's kind of start at the top, only because I can't think of another way to do it. But the first document you have here is a statement of course for records, NTIS, and content of package. It's 8 pages. What's in this document?
So here's kind of the summary of what that means. So NTIS is the National Technical Information Center. And yes, I know it says S, but it referred to NTIC or service, National Technical Information Service. And the short of it is they collect these technical documents, not only on UFOs, but a massive amount. And the reason why NTIS got involved was because after the FAA learned of Flight 1628's encounter, And they did an investigation, which, by the way, is a very important point in itself, because, again, 1969, although we haven't brought it up in this interview, but 1969 was supposed to be the government and military's final year that they cared about UFOs. They heard about this UFO encounter with Flight 1628. They took it very, very seriously and conducted a investigation, the FAA. They finished a report and sent it to NTIS to then sell to the public. And when anything goes into NTIS, it makes me cringe because they still to this day will charge you for information. Doesn't matter about the FOIA at all. The Freedom of Information Act doesn't really apply. So it could be a 50-page report and they'll still charge you, whatever their fee schedule is now, probably 20 cents a page or whatever it is. So you'll have to pay for it. So what they did after the FAA did this investigation to the public who funded the investigation, they decided to sell it back to them. And so some of these records in the beginning, including the NTIS and content of package, is some of the documents outlining what was what it was that they were selling and the order form to actually order it. And in that first PDF, this is actually very interesting because you obviously don't have to pay for it, but look at what people did. Was paid $194.30.
It's incredible. And it says order form for JAL Flight 1628. This is at the top of the page, everybody. It's like page 4 or 5. Unidentified traffic sighting, November 18th, 1986. The event occurred on November 17th, 1986. And then it says for $194.30, you get the complete package of all written records, photographs, plus all tape recordings.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And not to jump forward, but what was interesting was in this 1,500 pages, towards the end were file folders of people that did pay it, that sent in their check. And I'm curious, I mean, I haven't gone through all of the letters to add up, but there were a lot of people that paid that amount of money to get this collection. Now, that's a lot of money back then. I mean, this is, $194 is a lot of money in 2018. But this was in the late 1980s. People were paying this to get the documents. What they got is broken down in this order form. And so you kind of see, you can actually pick and choose. So if you only wanted like one particular report, like one was $11, another was $10, another was $25 for the cassette. Some people may not even know what a cassette is anymore, but that's what they were selling. And a lot of people wrote in. Well, the FAA saved all of those letters, and I got them all, including the people's names and the handwritten letters, and they placed orders for it. And that's a show in itself. But whenever the government is funded by taxpayer dollars and they create a report of public interest, because this was obviously a public interest in the late 1980s, and then they turn around and sell it back, to me, I have a very huge fundamental issue with that. But, again, that's a different show. But that's what the beginning pages were, that it kind of outlined, hey, if the general public wants this is how much you're going to pay. This is the broken down list of what you'll get. If you want to piecemeal it, go ahead and check what you want. Send a check for however much the total is, and we'll go ahead and send it to you. I don't know, based on what is on this form, if it totaled 1,500 pages. As of my interview with you tonight, I haven't found on this particular order form, there are like 5-page, 3-page, 2-page stipulation on that. But is that really the page count of what they got? I'm not really sure. But you can see it's definitely a far cry from 1,500 pages, even 1,000 pages. So what exactly you were getting, I'm not sure.
Well, check this out. Confident. For $3.05, right? I'm looking at it here, a la carte. $3.05, you get the chronology of events, 5 pages. You get a transcription. This is where I would go for $3. Transcription of communications between air traffic control and 1628. Flight path chart. The transcription is 23 pages, by the way. flight path, 1 page, personal statements, 8 pages, and then you also get the FAA form daily record of facility operations, showing the time and watch supervisor's entries of all major items in the flight activity log. That's 3 pages. For my money, that's the best $3.05 you might spend in all of ufology. That's absolutely incredible. What a document. And this wasn't even supposed to exist, right? Let's go to, let me look at the clock here. We've got so much data to go through. The next FAA Aircraft Incident Board, what would you like to open up next?
Yeah, the most interesting part in this discovery, and again, some of these documents are out. I'm not sure which ones were or which one weren't. It might be even impossible to tell, how much these have circulated. But I'll just kind of give the rough overview of the more important parts. The captain of Flight 1620H, he gave a long interview with the FAA after the fact. Included with that was the first officer and even the flight engineer. They all gave extensive interviews with the FAA detailing their encounter, what they saw. And in this collection, you can download the entire transcript of what he said. The captain also submitted, although it's in Japanese, but for any Japanese-speaking listeners, maybe they can kind of, cross-reference some of the English translations because sometimes the government may not be entirely accurate. I know that comes as a shock to some people, but maybe those that speak Japanese can look at the written statement by the captain and see what he wrote in his native language. I can say this, though, that and this was kind of interesting to me, he called the UFO that he saw a mothership on multiple occasions within his interview. And so as an experienced commercial pilot in 1996, you're not going to be describing a neighboring 747 in flight as a mothership, even a military aircraft, if he sees it streaking through the sky. That's a very interesting term to use, and yet he used it on multiple occasions. It's for me to kind of go through what the pilot saw, and then you see the crew members. That's one of the more important finds in this group.
Yeah, he
one of
says
the other things.
Well, let me jump in really quick because specifically, he says he's getting interviewed by is it Richard Gordon, where Gordon's and so Terryuchi says the cargo flight and it took off 2 a.m. midnight after takeoff. We start the climb and we saw on the left hand side a big mothership. And he says, it was so weird that I ignored it. And then he says, big ship. And the second time I saw a clear sky daytime, I guess maybe 10,000 feet. The light continued for about 10 minutes. But he says right there, mothership. That's a very interesting. Why do you think, for you and I and the rest of the UFO audience out there, mothership, we understand what that may mean or imply. But when you see this coming from a pilot, is he referencing the same thing that we're thinking about?
In my opinion, yes. And this is where I would be curious to kind of see somebody who speaks Japanese to kind of go through his original, because I have all the original statements that he submitted in Japanese, to kind of see, was this maybe a translation issue? But he gave this particular part of the interview in English, so I believe he was obviously bilingual. But he is the one, I believe, from looking at this, that chose the word mothership and continued to use it throughout. He also, when he described the mothership, was talking about the certain light patterns that were on it. Now, here's why I bring that up. Commercial airliners have specific lights and specific positions for a reason. And pilots are much more well-versed than I am to explain, why certain colors are on what side of the aircraft and so on. But they are there for a reason, right? They're stipulated on why they're there. When a pilot sees a craft, describes it as a mothership, and the lights don't match up to anything that he is aware of, that to me is a very important part of the story. if somebody from the ground, unrelated to Flight 1628, if somebody from the ground called me up and said, John, I saw a UFO, it had a red and blue flashing light, and it was flying through the air. That to me kind of screams, okay, well, that really kind of follows FAA regulations there. So I don't really think that we're going to be talking about an alien spacecraft. My point with that is I think that a lot of things are misidentified. But when a pilot sees certain light patterns on what he calls a mothership that don't fit into anything that he has seen or is known to exist or that he's trained to look out for or so on, to me that's an important part. And he does say that when he's describing the mothership when he sees these lights in the sky. So what that means, I don't know. What did he see? I'm not really sure, but I can say that he was an experienced enough pilot to identify something if it was another commercial airliner or possibly military, and yet he couldn't do it.
Yeah, he says here, this is very interesting. Remember, he's a fighter pilot too as well, and he's talking about flames and exhaust in the smaller craft. And he says, I saw sparks like fire. When using gasoline or carbon fuel, that's how he describes it, you can see a great big flame, but I could not see flame at another angle, although there was a big blast. And then there's another Japanese, must be an interpreter. He says, seems like it's really high technology because you can't see anything over there unless it's in a spinning rotation. And then Gordon comes in and says, yeah, okay. Somebody said sometimes the sparks kick over into it and you could see the exhaust. Now, in my mind, there's another picture you have here where this could be on this big thing, Captain. And this is what he says. Check this out. This is Terryuchi. Quite different. This is just a small spaceship. This one, the other one, the mothership, is the size of a carrier, 2 times bigger. It's a mothership. So after they flew with us 3 or 5 minutes, like a home mission, they move to the mothership. He's talking about the 2 small craft. So then I found the mothership light, but this is not light all engine because we have contact 7 or 8 miles here. So we saw the first light. So the first light contact, they moved behind. So we saw the pairs of light. He's talking about the 2 smaller craft. So we saw this light the same size, this one the same size. Very interesting. So that's why he's calling it a mothership. He says, Gordon says, so do you think that it was just the mothership and then these little things were, and he goes, yeah, they were moving along and went to the mothership. Very interesting. So that's why he called it the mothership, because the 2 craft in the official reports that I've seen in the past, the 2 craft disappeared. That's what I thought. And then this giant walnut-sized thing rises up in front of JAL 1628. But now he's saying here that the 2 smaller craft moved to the mothership. Very interesting. I cannot believe you found this document. I just can't believe what I'm reading here.
Well, the other interesting thing too is you go through it and the transcript is long, and so I would encourage anybody listening, definitely read it, because you can essentially hear what the pilot was saying. And the other interesting thing though is that there are contradictions on what the FAA personnel and everybody was reporting, and it comes down to the radar. This is something that I think, although, I'm not going to bet $100 on it, but I think that this is the stuff that really has never been out before. And during the investigation, not only did they do these interviews with the pilot and the crew of Flight 1628, but what they also did was they gathered and collected all of the radar data that was going on as they were monitoring 1628. It's a very serious thing when a pilot says that they see traffic near their aircraft, because obviously they are trained to make sure that they're not going to collide with anybody, and that's what these guys do. And so they collected all of the radar data, and not only did I get all of the radar data, but the FAA then input all of that radar data into equivalent radar systems to then create screens of what they were seeing on the screen as Flight 1628 was encountering these UFOs. Included were color photographs of these radar screens. You can download them all. It's actually pretty cool to see. Now, here's kind of the weird twist, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what all of this part means. But as that they were reviewing the radar data, and they were putting it into equivalent systems to, again, see the screens and figure out, was there a second, a third, a fourth, were there UFOs in addition to Flight 1628? They said, and there's a document that actually breaks this down, that at the exact time that the UFO sighting was taking place, that the radar data showed that they were seeing what they called, quote, uncorrelated primary and beacon targets, or uncorrelated radar signals. Now, don't worry, I didn't know what that meant either.
Right.
Maybe some pilots that are listening would totally understand that. But apparently what that means is that when the radar energy goes from a radar system out, and it's supposed to just bounce back the signature of the aircraft, and there it pops up on your screen, that sometimes the signal will not only come back from the radar, but also the transponder beacon from the aircraft as well. And then all of a sudden you have multiple blips, and the two dots don't match up on the radar screen, and they don't show as being in the exact same location. It's some apparent phenomena with radar that in this incident report, in these batches of files, the FAA tried to claim, and I'll even quote the guy. This is from Paul Stuick, if I probably don't have that pronounced right, but he was part of the FAA Public Affairs Office. And he said this electronic phenomena is not unusual. The document said the electronic phenomena is not unusual. The quote from Stoic says, "It is unfortunate that the uncorrelated target phenomena occurred just when a pilot was reporting seeing something outside of his aircraft." I'm trying to figure out what he means by that. Are we just chalking this up to some kind of really sad, unfortunate coincidence because now we can't confirm that UFO is really there?
Right.
Or is there a connection between the UFOs and this phenomena that happened on the radar screens? I'm not sure what the answer is, but this is all spelled out in detail from the FAA that they were essentially seeing this phenomena at the exact same time. And the public affairs officer says, oh, yeah, it's really unfortunate. It happened at the exact same time. And it's rather humorous because you wonder, what are you trying to say here? I mean, were there contacts? Now, the other part that's interesting about the radar documents going through them is that you have signed statements from some of the ground controllers there on what they did and did not see. And it seems like, going back to my comment about contradictions, it seems like they are themselves contradicting what the official line is. One says, oh, well, we only saw normal aircraft traffic on the radar screen, so nothing abnormal. Another signed statement says, yeah, it looks like we can confirm that there was a second craft in air traffic near Flight 1628. So it's one of those bizarre things. Like, what are you guys trying to say? Was there or wasn't there? Away from the pilot testimony, we know what the pilot said, but what are you guys trying to say with the radar stuff? And it's not clear what they're trying to say. But in addition then to all of the radar data and all of the radar analysis that they were doing and all of the contradictions that now are starting to come up, they actually talk about other UFO sightings. This was also another interesting find in these documents that occurred within about a year or two of the same Flight 1628 incident, about a year or two of other UFO encounters between military and commercial aircraft in that same area. They even referenced the Air Force being involved in one of them from the late 1980s. Now, what's wrong with that? The Air Force didn't care about UFOs after 1969. And yet here's an FAA document saying, yeah, the Air Force looked into this and they were not able to find a confirmation of a UFO. Now, even though that's not a great conclusion, the point I'm making is the Air Force was involved, that they were taking these UFO encounters seriously. And again, that was not 1628. That was a different UFO encounter that was outlined in these documents. So there's a lot of nuggets that came out in these documents that I wasn't expecting. I just figured it would be all about Flight 1628 and we'd get the same runaround answer. On the contrary, a lot of these documents are very contradictory to themselves, meaning the FAA was not in agreement with what happened, although there's no quote-unquote conclusion page where they said, well, we think he was hallucinating or we think it was a weather balloon or whatever silly explanation, at least not that I found. They did research this quite extensively, and they did try and figure out what it was, and in my opinion, they couldn't. And none of these documents show any kind of definitive explanation, but rather it starts talking about this radar phenomena in the exact same moment that they were seeing the UFOs. Whether or not that's a coincidence, I'll let your listeners decide, but there's some very amazing gems in this collection that I think probably, at this point, in my opinion, the FAA probably wish they did destroy them all.
Yeah, I know what I'm going to be doing tonight after the show. Let's take a break right here. I'm going to go through all of this. I went through parts of it already. This is Fade to Black. John Greenewald, the Black Vault, talking about Japan Airlines 1628. But when we come back, we're going to jump straight over to AATIP. What is AATIP? Well, if you don't know, you're going to find out right after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously. Go Beckley Teppy. Do you want to be an official FADERNIGHT? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the paranormal radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the paranormal radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi.
Hi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest, John Greenewald of the Black Vaults. And before we continue here, I want to say this really quick, that John and I, in announcing the show here tonight with John, we did do a public and private invitation for Tom DeLonge and Luis Elizondo. And so just to be fair, just to let everybody know, if I failed to mention that they responded back, and I did do that, that wouldn't be cool. Tom did write me back and stated that, you know what, thank you. Not at this time, not at this time, but that he does respect Fade to Black in the UFO community. And without getting into the other details of that correspondence, that stuff stays private and confidential, but they did respond back. Okay, so I just want to publicly state that now. Okay, so John, let's get into a little bit of the history here first, because your research into AATIP and what is documented on the Black Vault it's very comprehensive. It's long. It's very in depth. Okay, so you've been doing this for quite a while now, and it's a lot of stuff to read through for everybody. I invite everybody to go to the Black Vault and go to that case file. The links are up right now, not only in Twitter by John, but ourselves included here at Fade to Black.
Yeah.
Okay.
So real quick, I put a shortcut for anybody to just kind of jump to the page. It's theblackvault.com/TTSA, all lowercase, and that will shoot you to what we're going to be talking about, everything. And it, like you said, it's a rather big page, but I've tried to be as thorough and as fair as possible as I dissect all the claims about AATIP and all of the related material.
Now, so let's encapsulate. Excuse me. I just coughed and didn't use my cough button. Let's encapsulate everything in a very bridged version of it. So let's start first with AATIP. What is AATIP?
Sure. So, as we know, in October of 2017, Tom DeLonge and quite a few other gentlemen appeared on stage and announced the To the Stars Academy. With that came a revelation, a very cool revelation, by the way, of a program that was done within the Department of Defense and the United States military in conjunction with the private sector of researching UFOs. Now, in October of 2017, AATIP was not known yet, but they did allude to the program existing. Mr. Luis Elizondo was one of the gentlemen that stood up. He announced himself as being the director of this project. And when a claim like that is made, I am all over it, because that is just a very cool story. It coincides with something that I have said for many, many years, that the government has not lost interest in UFOs. Mm-hmm. I briefly said before the last break that the Air Force has contested for many years that 1969 was the last year they were interested. I've got documentation to prove otherwise. And so when this claim was made by Mr. Elizondo, I was all over it. Started filing FOIA requests in December of 2017. Then it really broke. Then the name, going back to your question now, the AATIP program, and here is going to be where I'm going to get hate mail, the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, or AATIP, was announced to the world. Here's the controversy. And it doesn't sound like it's a big one, but I'll explain why I feel it is kind of a big one. It has been reported as also by the name of Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Mr. Elizondo claims that the aerospace is the right way to say it. The United States government claims that it's aviation. Now, why is this a big deal? I liken it this way. If Dr. J. Allen Hynek said I was the scientific advisor for Project Green Book, and we later found out that the real name was Project Blue Book, well, it's close enough, it's a color and so on, would we question the rest of what he said? I would say yes. And so this is not against anybody's honesty or integrity, but I'm interested in why would the government, if they are lying or if they are stating something that is not necessarily true, why is that? And I can't figure out a reason why. And as I started filing FOIA requests, as I started researching it more, certain red flags began to pop up that contradicted what the mainstream media reported. And as a victim of the mainstream media myself, and I can give you multiple examples, but I won't bore you to death, of misreporting about something that I have come out with, UFO related and not, but misreporting, I was concerned that maybe Mr. Elizondo and the To the Stars Academy was not being represented properly, because this is the seriousness of it. As you know, Jimmy, I've spent 22 years trying to get people to pay attention to the real material out there, not the stuff that's embellished, not the silliness that we find on some YouTube channels and blogs, but the real material, the real information, the real documents, because the truth, in my opinion, is more fascinating than fiction. And that's what I've really spent my time with. And so as the weeks turned into months and I started getting more and more red flags, I started asking questions. And that has now led to a very controversial debate on whether or not AATIP, number one, the name, yeah, I think it's an issue, but that's not the only one. If AATIP really was what we are led to believe. And I believe that there are enough red flags now to start making the case that as we are now approaching a 1-year mark from the October 2017 announcement that this program was in existence, as we approach that year mark, if you can believe it, it's been almost a year, I think certain questions at this point should be answered and addressed. And to my surprise, the Pentagon has spent some time with me, both on the telephone and in writing, from the official spokesperson from the Pentagon itself. When they make claims in writing, that's important, and we can get into that. But they are the only ones that are addressing some of these issues. Can't believe I'm saying that, but the United States government is actually being more open than an organization that says that they want to stop secrecy. And so that I don't want it to come off as me being combative, but rather I want to be accurate.
Okay, let me ask you some very, very specific questions. In all of your Freedom of Information Act requests concerning AATIP, or any personalities with AATIP, any requests that you have done so far, how many documents have been released to you?
Officially under FOIA, as of last week, 1.
Just 1. Okay, now
Just
we're going to...
Now, those are documents. Now, there have been statements, but...
Okay, but
documents. Those are not under FOIA. I mean, if I'm answering your question correctly, under the Freedom of Information Act, as far as I am aware, there is only one single real document that was released under the FOIA, and that came just days ago.
Okay, and we're going to get to that document in a second. But concerning your searches and your request on how you formulated those, What, in a general sense, because the search terms in those requests can be broad and also very extensive, but what were you requesting for? Aerospace, aviation, Luis Elizondo, for instance. Were you how broad? What were your search requests in those terms?
Sure. So after October, the acronym AATIP, or whatever it stands for, was not known yet. So my original requests that I sent in October gave extensive details, and also quoting from the transcript of the press conference that To the Stars Academy did, with Mr. Elizondo's name, because if he's laying claim to being the director of the program, when you submit a FOIA request, that's kind of more than enough information for them to deduce what you're talking about. So even though you don't know it's Project X, you do have who is said to be the director of the program, what the objectives were. And there was enough meat in what he said for any FOIA officer to direct my request in the right way. That original request received what's called a no records response. The Office of the Secretary of the Defense, which is the office that is kind of the main office that handles all FOIA requests to the DoD. It gets a little bit more complicated, but they're kind of like the main office. And then what happens is they funnel out or transfer out those FOIA requests to the appropriate DoD component.
Right.
So the DIA is a component of the DoD, and so on and so forth. However, after filing that request, they gave me a no records response. They said nothing existed based on my request. Now, when December came about, so that was about November 27th when I received that no records response. When December broke and the New York Times and Politico, and then the avalanche of publicity that they garnered for this, and props to them because it went global, then it was known on what the name was. Now, this is then where that kind of issue came with the name, because originally, without filing a FOIA, I work in television, as you pointed out, and I was working on developing a television series at the time. And I thought, hey, Mr. Elizondo would be a perfect person if he would agree to be a part of this. So let me see, because at this point I didn't know how controversial it would get. I mean, this was like a week or two of the announcement of it. So I picked up the phone and called a contact over at the Pentagon within their PR office. And I asked them about the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and they corrected me on the telephone. And they said, no, it's Advanced Aviation. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, actually, the media is saying aerospace. So is that wrong? And they said, yes, that is wrong. After that, to confirm it, I was then passed to a major. Her rank is major. Her name is Audricia Harris. She is one of the official spokespeople for the Pentagon. I bring up her name because she is, again, the one that gave me that information, confirmed it, and then did it in writing, because I asked her, I said, would you mind if you shot me an email so I at least have this on an official level that you're stating this? Because I think on one of the first interviews that I even did with you said, okay, well, this was just a phone call. And I said, well, yeah, but it happened. And so I got it in writing just to make sure there was no misunderstandings with what I was claiming to the public. And she said, yeah, absolutely. So for me, and this is a very common misconception with those that argue with me over this, the list is dwindling on how many people are attacking me, but I still get attacked for it. The spokesperson of an agency is considered the extension of the voice of that agency. Or if they are the spokesperson for a particular person, let's say the president, they are considered the extension of the voice of the president. So when Sarah Huckabee Sanders said something, claimed something, it is considered Donald Trump saying that. That is how spokespeople work.
Mm-hmm.
The same is true on an agency level. So for them to put in writing that this is the name, that isn't a clerical error, which some have tried to claim. Oh, well, she just wasn't in the know. Well, I'm sorry. She is the official spokesperson for the Pentagon with the rank of major and deals with these topics on a daily basis.
And
that is
she
the job
corrected
of a spokesperson.
you. And she corrected you.
And they corrected me, yeah. And again, I didn't know it was going to be controversial. I just said aerospace. And so as the time progressed and I posed that question, a lot of people said, yeah, well, what is with that discrepancy? Others attacked, but some said, hey, well, wait a minute. Well, what is with that? And I believe that Mr. Elizondo has said in one of his public speeches or in an interview, I'm not sure which one, but I do know that he has said that that is an error, that it definitely is aerospace and not aviation. Now, why is this important? Well, to be honest with you, it does go to credibility of the story. That if he is the director of the program, and I'm not accusing him of anything. Let me say that real quick. If he is saying that it is aerospace and the Pentagon is putting in writing, no, it isn't. There's no rhyme or reason that I have found on why the Pentagon would change that one name. I can't figure it out. I can figure it out why it might be embellished on the other side. I hate to say it, but I do have a reason why they might embellish it, make it seem that this program dealt with not only things that are flying at 20, 30,000 feet, but also possibly things that are flying in, near space or space itself. I can figure that one out. Why the military would be so adamant about saying, no, it is aviation, I can't figure out. And here's why. The FOIA will produce documents, and last week showed me it has now started. But the FOIA will produce documents that involve this program. They know that. A major, as a spokesperson for the Pentagon, is very, very smart. So she is not going to think that she's going to put this in writing, take a guess, slough everyone off for a year or two, and then just claim ignorance when the real name comes out. I don't believe that. If that's how it unfolds, I stand corrected. But I just don't see it. So for me, it goes to the credibility of what are we really talking about with this program? The director says one word, the Pentagon puts in writing another. When I've tried to clarify with To the Stars and try and reach Mr. Elizondo, must be something that I've said because they don't want to talk to me. And it really, if they're listening right now, and this goes to the people that even today on Twitter, the last 48 hours have been fairly explosive with a select few people. But if To the Stars is listening right now, what I would say, and I hope that they know, is I am genuinely interested in why certain things are the way they are. That doesn't mean I'm trying to derail their objective. That doesn't mean that I'm trying to, make them look bad. That doesn't mean I'm questioning anybody's honor and integrity. I mean, we just spent the first hour of your show talking about whether or not it was a lie. I'm not really sure, but the government telling me something that wasn't true. So I can buy that. That's okay. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they don't want to address not only the name issue, and that I would say is maybe 5% of my overall red flag numbers, but the fact that they don't want to address things like this, not just to me, I'm talking about to anybody who's asking, that to me is a red flag in itself. The fact that the Pentagon will take my call and put in writing this, that is to me an issue and something that needs to be dealt with, because that goes to the core of what this story is all about.
Now, we're going to head towards a break. We've got about 8 minutes here to set up this single document that you received within the last week that we are going to discuss. But we need to talk about where this document came from. And this needs to be seriously discussed. The community needs clarity. And we need to discuss what Intellipedia is. And Intellipedia freaks me out. And when you and I were talking about this last week, what did I tell you? I said, dude, I don't even like to type it, right? I don't even, because, well, okay, let's just go right there. What is Intellipedia?
Yeah, so Intellipedia is actually 3 systems. Contrary to popular belief, it is not one. It is 3 systems. They have a for official use only level, they have a secret level, and they have a top secret level. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but as far as I know, I'm probably one of the one of the only people that have really filed requests for multiple entries. I've got the handbook declassified. I've got multiple entries. I think I kind of hold the record for the amount of Intellipedia requests that have gone out. I find it a very, very valuable resource that, even though sometimes it's hard to access through FOIA,
but
the results are fascinating.
Let's stop right there. Again, for clarification, who uses Intellipedia? By the way, I'm going to announce this to the audience. When John and I first, we were texting back and forth, and he hits me, and as soon as I read Intellipedia, I immediately, within seconds, said, John, which one? Right? And John, you remember this. Yeah. And then my response back was, you know what? Seriously, this freaks me out. I don't even like texting this or typing this because of who uses this. It actually freaks me out. So for the record, who uses Intellipedia? Any one of the three?
It is used by the intelligence community, and CIA and NSA, and I believe it extends to some government contractors with the appropriate clearances. It is used as a resource to reference, again, almost anything. You can find things on historical projects, historical people, biographies, project names. I've found things in there that I never thought would be in there, and yet there they are. One of my biggest triumphs under the FOIA with this system is getting the number of statistics of how many pages and how many articles there are, and it totals millions throughout all three systems. It is very much identical to what we would use in the general public as Wikipedia. Now, of course, we all have problems with Wikipedia in one way or another, but that's the system. That's what Intellipedia is, but on a classified level and internal use for the intelligence community as a whole. And again, it is cross-agency. Now, it is run by the NSA. So whenever I do a FOIA request, when it comes to Intellipedia, I've got to start with the NSA. If it's, let's say it's an Intellipedia entry on a CIA program, for example, MK Ultra, which I did get declassified, I filed to the NSA, but then they forward out my request to the CIA. This is how silly it is. If I start with the CIA, it won't work right, in my experience. You have to start with the NSA, and then they transfer it out. Sometimes the NSA will declassify it. Other times it's called OPR, and I know that this will come up in the next segment. But OPR is the Office of Primary Responsibility. And OPR, the agency that's the OPR, is the one that makes the decision on what information they're going to declassify. And so that's how Intellipedia in a nutshell works. And under FOIA, you can then request information from all three systems, and then, pending the FOIA exemptions, hopefully get it declassified, and you are released the information. And it really does serve as not only a valuable resource for me as a researcher and an investigator, but just like Wikipedia, and this for me is the key, just like Wikipedia, Intellipedia has a references section in most articles. Now, as we know, references are the kind of callbacks to other reports or other records to kind of cite the source. And that's why I use Intellipedia, because sometimes the entries are very interesting, but the references then start calling back to classified reports that they're pulling information from to make that article. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So then, once I get that page declassified, I go immediately to the references section, and I find report XYZ created in 1975, and I go, boom, that hasn't been out before, file a request, and, I just pursue that lead, and I go down the list. And so Intellipedia is a very valuable resource for just that.
Okay. Does it make you nervous poking around on Intellipedia? Do you feel that those flags, certainly somebody knows you're doing it.
Well, again, this is just to clarify, you can't access anything with Intellipedia. What you have to do is you have to file a FOIA, and then you get a paper printout of the entry after it's been declassified. And some entries have taken me years to get. So unlike the National Archives, just to compare that to the beginning part of our conversation,
right?
You can't sift through even the unclassified or for official use only level, the bottom level. You can't touch it. You can't even touch the cover page. being a member of the general public. This is 100% strictly for the intelligence community and those with access within government contractors. But even then, you have to be on specific computers that are able to access it, and then you can log in and search around. I cannot do that. This is all manual, and every time I get an entry, I then look at the category that entry came from. I file a FOIA request for that specific category, and you get an index of all pages within it, and then you just keep going. So it's a very manual process. It's pretty tedious, but I do have a big archive where I've collected literally hundreds and hundreds of pages that have been declassified on all sorts of stuff when it comes to secrets and programs and so on and so forth.
Okay,
the
let me
last
jump
thing I'll
in.
say, because I know you're on a break.
Yes, we are. Oh, go.
The last thing I'll say really quickly is that Intellipedia holds information on pretty much everything you go after. So any program name, piece of technology, aircraft, so on and so forth, generally it's referenced in the millions of pages that I discovered were in there. And that actually took me an appeal to get, because they denied me access. And then I was able to uncover that Intellipedia had millions and millions of pages in it that had never been released before.
Okay, and what this document is, how he got it, when he got it, and what it says, all of that are next. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, the one and only John Greenewald, the Black Vault. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll get right back to that AATIP document after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger-looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn
it. This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Simple. You can follow John Greenewald, the Black Vault, at BlackVaultCom. Don't ask me where he came up with that. But what do you mean BlackVaultCom? You couldn't do a better Twitter? I mean, John, come on.
I know. You called me out on it last time, too, and I don't disagree. It was one of those things where you make an email address when you're like 15 years old, and then you're like 28, and you have to give that to a new boss because you haven't changed it.
Right.
And sadly, it's a similar thing. It was originally I was blackvault.com. And then it kind of morphed to theblackvault.com. But, you know, you can't have a period, so I just did blackvault.com. I wasn't really thinking that it would get popular, and I regret it now. But, hey, what can you do?
Yeah.
I wish you could change a Twitter handle, but last time I checked, you couldn't do that.
Yeah, you can't do it. And, you know, Richard Dolan is Rich Dolan. You know, and he did it back. He didn't even think about it. Now he's stuck. You know, he's stuck with Rich Dolan on Twitter. Okay, so now... This gets into golden territory here, and so we're going to actually get to the part where you found the document. But you make one statement in your post here on the Black Vault, and you say, on the 8th of January 2018, the NSA told me that there are no records responsive to my request. Now, I don't care about the no records part. It's the NSA told me part that really freaks me out. What do you mean by that? I mean, what do you mean by that?
Well, just that. I mean, I had requested, because going back to the Intellipedia explanation, pretty much anything of any interest to the intelligence community is within Intellipedia. And again, I've got tons of examples of that. So I filed a FOIA request for a search, not only for Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, but also Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Because again, it's controversial. Who knows what it is?
Right.
So I requested a search for those phrases as not only an entry, but also all entries that say those phrases. So the way that I word the request is, even though the entry might not say AATIP, if AATIP is mentioned in, Project XYZ document, then it'll come up. So I'm very careful on how I craft the FOIA request to ensure that I get everything. Despite using both names and the acronym and so on and so forth, they told me that AATIP, both renditions of the name, did not appear at all in the millions of pages that were within the system. So not a single author in any of the intelligence community agencies ever felt that there was any interest of having AATIP as part of the system. Now, why is this important? Well, one very common misconception is, well, it's too classified. It's too secretive. They didn't know about it. Well, on the contrary, that top secret level Intellipedia has arguably the most highly classified programs within it. So in Intellipedia worlds, there is no such thing as too classified. How can I prove that? Well, the Edward Snowden revelations of spying on cell phones and the PRISM program, and even going back to the days of Echelon, all of those really highly sensitive words come up in my requests. Some entries I've been able to get declassified in part. Others, the NSA gives me what's called a GLOMAR response, and a GLOMAR response is where they say we can neither confirm nor deny that documents exist. In essence, they do, but they're really classified, and they don't want to tell you about them. That's kind of the scale for me on when it's too classified. With AATIP, they said, no, we have no records. It doesn't appear. However, now fast forward, I filed a different request. And I wasn't actually going for AATIP stuff. I was going for Bigelow Aerospace stuff. If Robert Bigelow is listening, I was just looking to see what kind of entries mentioned your company. It wasn't really anything sinister. I knew that he was involved with AATIP, but obviously Bigelow Aerospace, I do a lot of different keywords in the searches. As a result of that request filed after that January date, quite a few entries, and in fact, they're right here next to my chair. I haven't even scanned them yet, but one of which I have, which was the UFO entry from Intellipedia. Now, I had already received it in 2014, and it was very kind of pathetic because there was not much on it. In fact, I don't think there was really anything on it. Now, it came up again with Bigelow Aerospace. So as I'm thumbing through this FOIA response, I'm going, why is a UFO entry in here for Bigelow Aerospace other than the obvious? I mean, we knew AATIP, but I already got the denial. Sometime, and it looks like it was December 22nd when they actually added it in, they added a section on AATIP in the UFO page.
Now, there is in Intellipedia, one of the three or all three, but there is an unidentified flying objects UFO page.
Correct. And I had received it before, like I said, in 2014. No mention of AATIP, no nothing. And and I have that archived. So if anybody goes to the Intellipedia page, I archive all the previous releases, and then I'll go after them after 2 years again to see how they changed.
Got it.
Intellipedia is considered a living, breathing document. So when you go after a document that was, a report or an intelligence assessment or whatever outside of Intellipedia, once they're published, they're published. They don't morph. They don't change. Intellipedia is amazing in the sense that the intelligence community, they consider it a living, breathing document. What it looks like in December of 2017 is sometimes different than it will in January of 2018.
It's kind of like
exactly
right. It's kind of like a blockchain of intelligence community records, and so it's inserted and is archived.
Correct, and then it changes. So just like Wikipedia, when you go to a certain entry, it will morph over time, and so the UFO page morphed. And it had a new section, which obviously mentioned Bigelow Aerospace. My mind immediately went to the obvious because we know Bigelow Aerospace took a part in AATIP. How big is still debated, but they played a role in it. So I started going through the UFO entry, and sure enough, a new heading is now in the entry, and it reads, DOD's Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, 2007 to 2012. Then following that heading are 3 paragraphs that are preceded by a capital U in parentheses. Now, what does that mean? That the information within is unclassified. If it was secret, it would have an S. If it was top secret, it would have a TS. If it was confidential, which is the lowest, it would have a C. That's how they kind of differentiate between various paragraphs and the classifications there are. It's a fascinating thing, probably boring for some, but I love it because a top secret document can have an unclassified paragraph followed by a top secret one.
Right.
And so it varies on how documents are written, but there are forms and ways that they have to structure these records. So 3 paragraphs, all unclassified, nothing blacked out, the author wrote about AATIP, used the word aviation, and cited the New York Times and Politico in the opening sentence there, but mostly referred to the New York Times. Here's why it's interesting to me. The New York Times published the article in December of 2017 as the Advanced Aerospace Threat ID Program.
Right.
The interesting thing for me here is whomever the author is, and we don't know who it is because that's redacted for privacy issues, but whomever the intelligence community personnel was that wrote this reverted it back to what has been floated by the Pentagon as the real name. In my opinion, if they really were citing the New York Times, they would have kept it Aerospace. And even though they are citing the New York Times, they reverted it back to the Aviation name.
Why?
Now, again,
well, that's the question. Why? Why?
In my opinion, because they have clearance. You can't access Intellipedia without certain clearances. Now, even though this was unclassified, at the very bottom of the document, the very bottom, for those that are reading through it, the last line says highest possible classification is top secret / and then some code words and so on. The reason why that's important is this probably does come from the top secret level of Intellipedia, but none of the information in it is top secret. So even though the overall system is top secret, within it, like I said, in a top secret document, you can have unclassified information.
Right.
That's exactly indicative here. So whomever this was that added it, reverted that name back. To go to your question, why is that? Well, I'm going to say because it's accurate. They're citing a New York Times article that said aerospace. If they were just quoting from that and using that as the only reference, why wouldn't they echo what that news article said?
A cut and paste.
Now, or cut and paste or whatever. Now, again, I want to stress that the name issue with me is a very small percentage of the overall picture. But to me, it is a very important point to try and figure out why is there this essentially battle between one side claiming one word, the other side claiming not. If one side is not telling the truth, whichever side that is, I think that's important. If the U.S. government is not being truthful and they're concealing the information and they're hiding things, that is very important. That's a very important part of this story, that they are covering up this information. And yet, we don't have an answer to that yet. So some of the people that I think are really the diehard supporters of To the Stars, which is great. I mean, I'm glad that they're passionate. But the main attack behind this is who cares, and I'm making a big deal out of nothing. But to me, I've been around the block long enough to know that when somebody makes a claim and there's basic errors in the claim, that to me is indicative that there's something else going on. Whether or not the government is to blame and they're concealing something, or whether or not the other side is embellishing to, potentially spark investments into their corporation, I don't know. You can argue both ways. All I'm interested in is why, and that is a big point. But that, again, is just one of quite a few other revelations that have come out through FOIA. For example, denials about things that really shouldn't be denied based on what Mr. Elizondo has said. I'll give another quick one, which I think is very important. He went on the record stating that AATIP received their material from various sources, including the United States Navy. And so I filed a FOIA request to the United States Navy. And I asked for all documents, all videos, all records, all communications, everything. Again, I get very, very specific, but I cover all the bases of all the information transferred from the Department of the Navy over to OSD, which is the Office of Secretary of Defense, where Mr. Elizondo worked, and having it transferred over there as part of the AATIP program. Because obviously, if he's stating that they gave him records, there are transmittal slips to transfer that information, classified or not. There are memos, there's communications, there's letters, maybe there's emails, all of which I asked for from the Department of the Navy. They denied that they ever had any communication with OSD regarding AATIP at all. Now, why is that?
Yeah,
There are these types of red flags that one side says one thing, the other one says no. Actually, there is nothing. Are they all lying? Is this all part of a big conspiracy to cover up AATIP? Well, maybe. Then that's important. That's important too.
Yeah, it is.
But there's a growing list of these unanswered questions that I think are very important.
I wanted to ask you, and I can see that we're probably going to do a little overtime tonight. I'm just watching the studio clock click by. Too much to talk about. In my little circle, there is some mentions going on out there now that I don't know if you're aware of, and if you are, I need your response. That that weekend, or that I should say that time frame of this incident happening off of the coast of San Diego, that NASA the day before had just completed some type of ramjet hypersonic flight test of an engine out there that was successful. Now,
correct. Yeah,
you've heard
You're talking
this.
about the Tic Tac incident, the Nimitz encounter, right?
Right.
You're talking about the coast of San Diego. Yeah.
Right. Now, I'm not okay. What do you know about that? And I find that I don't know if it's a big deal or not. But having it happen apparently, a day apart or the same week or whatever, could they be connected? And well, what have you heard?
Yeah, and I don't want to come. Let me just say this real quick. I don't want to come off as a debunker, just simply because I'm not out to get anybody. But to my surprise, there aren't a whole lot of people talking about this, and I do think it's important just because of the coincidence of it. And the Nimitz UFO encounter, which has gotten a lot of press and a lot of play. Commander Fravor was obviously interviewed quite a bit, and I have a lot of respect for the men and women of the military. So this is not against him, but they're saying that the Nimitz UFO encounter happened on 14 November 2004 off the coast of San Diego. And what's not really talked about, and I'm really kind of surprised, is around that same time frame. It's actually within 48 hours. The X-43, which was NASA's scramjet, did a test flight, and they actually crushed the world record. They hit Mach 10 at 7,000 miles an hour, and they tested this thing that very same time frame. And the difference was about 48 hours from what has been published as the Nimitz encounter and the actual test of the X-43. Now, the reason why I bring this up is, of all the gin joints in all the world, the X-43 was tested off the coast of California.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's considered off the coast of Los Angeles, but obviously if you're going 7,000 miles an hour, you're not only going to be seen from Malibu. You know what I mean? You're going to be seen quite a distance. Now, am I saying that that's what the Tic Tac encounter was? No. Just based on the date, there's a difference there. But what I am saying is a possibility is there could have been other tests leading up to the test of the X-43. Were they testing other models? Were they, again, the coincidence of such an amazing UFO encounter and the pilot seeing something, as he reported, traveling at such great speed, within a 48-hour period, NASA's testing a Mach 10 aircraft in almost the same area.
Right.
That, to me, is something that we need to look at. We need to at least rule it out that NASA wasn't pre-testing something. And again, I'm guessing here. I don't have any documentation to support this part. But what if they had, some other tests going on to make sure they didn't embarrass themselves come the 16th when they put the X-43 in flight? What if they did some lower level, maybe not Mach 10, but very high speed aircraft at a lower level, just to see how they were going to do on the 16th? And could that have landed on the 14th? Because again, that area, that general vicinity was the same. Now, again, I cringe when I bring this up because I know that people are going to write and say, "Hey, you're debunking. You're going after these people."
John,
and I'm
that's not the case. That's not the case. And
but I fear it.
Well, look, it's okay. We need to look at everything. I had heard that it was the day before. You're saying it's a 48-hour window.
There's a NASA press release, not to interrupt you real quick. It's documented on a NASA press release. The exact number, if anybody wants to Google it, is NASA press release 04-373. And it documents what NASA did. And that is irrefutable. There's no guessing on that. That is irrefutable that on the 16th they broke Mach 10.
Now, let's just suppose here for a second that Fravor or any pilot, right, in the Navy happens to witness something like this and maybe gets it on radar or a missile, for, some type of a Navy ship is out there and they pick this up too as well. And ripping at this kind of speed, they wouldn't know what they were looking at. Right, and that's not a negative insult, but I agree with you. They're not going to know what it is. If I saw it, I wouldn't know. And that's a crazy thing to have seen. But I find it fascinating. The first time that I heard about this, John, I'm just going to be straight with everybody out there. You're just like, well, wait a minute here. Okay, all right. That's all you got to do. We just got to stop and analyze all of this. But that is something that's going on out there, and we should all just take a look at it and see where this goes. That's a very fascinating point. Now, there was something else that I wanted to ask you. Do you have anything you wanted to add to that? There's something else I needed to ask you.
No, for me, the final thought would be it's not every day the military is testing Mach 10 aircraft, right? And so for it to happen within that 48-hour window, I know you said you heard 24. It's possible because I don't know how documented that the Nimitz encounter was on the 14th. I believe that has been the published date. Maybe that is confirmed as the date that it all happened. But regardless, 48 hours, even 72 hours. The fact that NASA did this Mach 10 test, and that doesn't happen all the time, and it's in a very close vicinity to the Nimitz in San Diego. Mm-hmm. When you're traveling Mach 10, I don't know the math off the top of my head, but LA to San Diego is probably pretty attainable. So the fact that it's in that vicinity is something that I think we should look at and at least rule it out. As being something that was just a really crazy coincidence that a UFO encounter of a high-speed UFO was seen at the same time that humans were testing a Mach 10, very high-speed, 7,000 mile an hour scramjet. I think that's something that we need to look at and potentially rule out.
Can I keep you for another 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
Okay.
All night, Jimmy.
Well,
you know me.
Okay. Well, yeah, exactly. Because there's something else that, look, this isn't some type of a TTSA bashing show. It's not about that at all. But it is about reporting the news. And a couple of weeks ago, we got Elizondo's resignation letter was downloaded off of Chris Mellon's website, which has since been taken down. I don't know if it's back up, but the website was taken down. Now, that being said, that wasn't the only thing that was grabbed off of the site. And I've got all of the stuff here. I haven't shared any of it publicly. I haven't talked about it. I do have the names list. I've got that. I've got a couple of other things. And it was apparently available for anybody to download or have access to. I'm going to ask you, is that a mistake on Mellon's part, or was it there to be discovered?
Well, that's a question that you're going to have to ask him. In my personal opinion, if I would have to venture a guess, it was a mistake, and in my opinion, a rather big one, simply because you do have that confidential information of the pilots. So they obviously released kind of the breakdown of the Nimitz personnel that they had talked to, but they had redacted the names and redacted phone numbers and emails, and obviously, and rightfully so. and yet this document was unredacted. It was like a big oops that everything was there. So I do believe that was a mistake. I don't believe all of the names on that list want to be contacted by any Joe Schmo that's out there that wants to ask him a UFO question. One of the other things that you mentioned was the Elizondo resignation letter that Mr. Elizondo had submitted. This was quoted in the New York Times. I do not believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they have spoken out that is legitimate or not. I don't have a doubt that it's legitimate. I have concerns about it. But I will tell you a quick one, because I'm guessing you're coming up on a break. But I filed a FOIA request based on the New York Times reference for Mr. Elizondo's resignation letter. I was given a no records response. Now, you can read into that what you will. I want to be fair here and say that there is a huge legal debate on whether or not resignation letters are subject to the FOIA. And it has been argued in the Supreme Court when Donald Rumsfeld resigned. They, under FOIA, including myself, we went after it many, many years ago, and it was denied, and it went to the Supreme Court, and they argued that it's considered a personal document. I want to add to the story, though, and I've never talked about this, and I haven't published it yet, but I figured since you brought it up, why not? Even though a resignation letter is not subject to the FOIA, emails are. So I filed a request for a search of all of James Mattis's emails, the Secretary of Defense, and I used only a single keyword to be searched from January 1st of 2017 through, I believe I sent it in March of 2018. It was in 2018. I just don't remember what month. Regardless, though, the single keyword I asked to be searched was Elizondo. So any email that was BCC'd, CC'd to, from, sent, trashed, anything with that keyword in whatever way that it would appear was subject to my FOIA request. I got a no records response.
Okay, let's take a break right there because I want to know why. And I want to discuss the resignation letter, and we're going to do that when we come back. The resignation letter, it was funky on a lot of different levels. And John and I have debated this personally. We'll continue the debate. We're on two sides of the fence on this when we come back. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, John Greenewald, The Black Vault. Stay with us.
Hey, what up, y'all? Sugar Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark. deep with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and my family is safe because of Numana Emergency Food Storage. Just go to the Numana banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code Jimmy10.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Doing overtime with John Greenewald. The Black Vault. Saw that coming. So much to discuss when it came to the Japan Airlines 1628. It's just an amazing UFO encounter. And having John seriously stumble over those documents and present those to the community is just absolutely incredible. So we did that. But going over AATIP and having only one singular document surface, and having that in the intelligence references of the intelligence community is remarkable, just absolutely remarkable. But now we're talking about the Elizondo resignation letter. Now, John and I, I'm just going to throw us both under the bus a little bit. John and I had a very spirited conversation that lasted probably for an hour or two on the phone about this document. Now, John said to me at that time, it's real. What I had said then, and I'll say it again publicly, John, if it's real, that's fine. But there is no way that anybody outside of To the Stars or Louis Elizondo, but that letter was never sent and never read by anybody concerning a resignation. There is just no way. I can't. It's an embarrassment if it was sent, and I have my reasons for that. But I just don't think anybody ever read it.
Yeah, and I want to be fair here and accurate. I said I believe it's real. I don't know for a fact if it is. It wouldn't surprise me if it was. The quotes from the New York Times did accurately quote from it. So whether or not it's real and really his resignation letter, I do believe that it is real in the sense that that's what the New York Times was given. Again, with that FOIA request coming up negative, what I was seeking through the email process was not necessarily the resignation letter, because he could have just put that on somebody's desk and not emailed it. So I want to be fair there. However, what really surprised me was that Mr. Elizondo's name did not come up on a single letter to the man that he resigned to. And nor did it come up even after he started talking publicly in October of 2017 nor did it come up after the avalanche of media publicity in December of 2017. My whole argument with that is there's something going on here that doesn't make any sense. You would think that if Mr. Elizondo is making the claims that he is, and I'm not saying they're not truthful, but I'm saying with those types of claims, and that he wrote a resignation letter to Secretary Mattis as he said that he did, why wouldn't there be a single email in more than a year in the guy's email box that supports anything?
Well, somebody said to me, John, this a couple of weeks ago, and I got an email from somebody that maybe Lewis hand-delivered it. Okay,
right, and that's fair.
Okay. It's fair
on the resignation letter.
Sure,
but again, with his position and what he was doing, not only with AATIP, but he obviously stuck around from 2012 to October of 2017. My question, and this is in a list of questions that I would have if he was on with me right now, is what were you doing? Because it wasn't AATIP, and if it was, I want to know how they circumvented funding it. And all the audits and inspector general reports where they're looking at where this money is going to and from. And that to me is one of the bigger flaws in this story. Let's just put the name debate aside because, you can argue both ways. So let's put that debate aside. If he is taking money from other projects, which I believe he has said, and I know he has, where he's saying that we were able to fund it through other projects and this and that and continue AATIP from 2012 on. My question is, how did he circumvent every audit and the prying eyes of the Inspector General office? Because you can't reappropriate funds from one project to another at his level. I don't even think Secretary Mattis could do something like that without approvals and so on and so forth when it comes to fund appropriations. And according to his story, and this is where it starts to fall apart for me, is that the AATIP continued and it was still going on and they were still doing this. Well, how did they fund it if it ended in 2012? Because Mr. Elizondo did say that, yes, well, the main funding ended in 2012, but we were able to find money from other projects. My big question is, then who were you within the Pentagon, and what were you really doing from 2012 to 2017, and how did you circumvent all those processes? Because, yeah, the government has made some really bad mistakes with money, but I'm sorry, they do watch it. There is a checks and balances system, and so that's where I feel a bigger flaw in the story is that I feel many people just overlook, because it's easier to believe that the Pentagon had a top secret UFO program because it leads into the belief of many of us in pop culture. We want to believe that. It's easier to just say, it's all the truth. I told you, they've been researching UFOs. The reason why I am skeptical, not trying to be a debunker or skeptic, but skeptical, and I have questions, is the fact that I want to make sure, because I've devoted 22 years plus of my life to it, I want to make sure that the information is accurate. Newsweek just came out with an expose on To the Stars Academy and got into Mr. Elizondo and, Tom DeLonge and everybody and so on. And they did, I believe, a very fair piece. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. But my point with this and bringing it up is this piece was not oh my gosh, look at this. This was definitely a top secret UFO program, and they have metamaterials that are probably alien. Right? The journalists are looking at this and not doing follow-up stories. Nobody can argue with me on that one. Why hasn't the New York Times done 16 stories since December of 2017? You would think that they would put the effort that they are on, the political stories of the day, because this is an amazing story, but they're not. And I want to know why. And I believe, if I had to guess, it's because the information is not there to continue to support reporting on it at this point. If they come out with something tomorrow that totally blows all those skeptical questions away, awesome. He claims he has evidence that the DOD released the 3 videos that they have. The DOD says, no, they didn't. I want to know, why isn't he showing that evidence? So when you conceal evidence, not from the government side, but from this public benefit corporation, They're concealing that evidence. They've chosen not to show it, right? That's not me laying the accusation. That's real. They claim they have evidence to disprove what the government says, but they will not show you. I cannot figure out why.
Well,
the only reason I can say that they are not showing it is because there's nothing to show. That may sound mean, but that's the only thing I can come up with. I don't know what damage it would do if they came out and said, you know what, the government is telling John and other news agencies, because they have put it in writing, they have made official statements, we did not release those videos. If Mr. Elizondo has a authentic document that he says he does that proves they released the video, that will do nothing but benefit to the STARS Academy and put this to bed. And yet in almost a year, they haven't done it. And I don't know why. It's one of the many red flags that I've brought up, but that to me is a big one. And if you're a public benefit corporation, and I mean this respectfully, so if those guys are listening, I mean this respectfully, but if you want to tell the UFO community that you are a public benefit corporation, you are not benefiting the public by concealing that information, because you're withholding the truth about a topic that you said had too much secrecy in the beginning, and that's why you founded this public benefit corporation. So why continue the narrative? I've dealt with this for over 2 decades of secrecy. I don't need it from a public benefit corporation. We don't need more of the same. If they have the proof, awesome. Let's join hands. Let's show even more evidence that the government is concealing the truth, and let's move on. Let's see what else we can do. But I think that concealment is doing more harm than good at this point.
Yeah, the community as a whole has heard over and over again that we can't handle the truth, and that couldn't be farther from fact. Clearly it's the truth that we are demanding, and nobody's going to freak out here. Let's get these questions answered. My concern, and all of those points that you make, I think are important and very valid. But when I read the letter, and I don't know if it's real or not, and grammar put aside, and spelling issues and all of that put aside, but when things are conveniently pointed out there, such as UFOs are real on our threat to our men and women in uniform and our nation, and you don't care. So because of that, I quit. That to me wouldn't be in a resignation letter, number one. But that's not me. I didn't write it. But it's too convenient of a subject matter there. It's just way too convenient that it happens to be. And I don't believe, I could be wrong, but I don't believe that members of the Department of Defense and certainly counterintelligence and so forth are writing letters like this with that kind of information in it to their boss when they just want to retire. And that's my take. I could be wrong. I could be way wrong on this, but it just seemed too convenient to me. And then to have that letter leakable on a website to go out to the public, it just seems too convenient to me. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, and here's what I would say. Let's just assume for a moment it is true, and you did submit this. My bigger question for this is, we know, because Mr. Elizondo has said it, the funding ended in 2012, and they did this by kind of sliding funds and so on and so forth. At least that's what I believe he has said, and I hope he corrects me if I am wrong. But why did it take from 2012 to, well, there's no date on the letter, which I know is a red flag for all of us, but approximately October, his effective date for retirement was 4 October 2017. So why did it take 5 years for him to kind of come to grips with, well, there's more to this UFO thing, you guys should deal more, so I quit? That usually when you're ticked off about something, you'll do it within a couple weeks, a couple months. Heck, I'll even give it a year. But 5 years go by, and he tells the Secretary of Defense, hey, remember that program that you guys funded 5 years ago? Well, there was a lot more to it, so I quit. That, and of course, I'm paraphrasing, but that to me is the bigger thing that doesn't make sense. I don't understand why you would wait that long. And again, it falls back to, if they were still doing this, I want to know how they did it, because he's publicly saying it. He's publicly saying that funds came elsewhere, that AATIP as a whole was stopped in 2012, but came elsewhere. Well, where was elsewhere? And why did those funds get misappropriated or reappropriated based on your call? I'm not accusing him of anything. Please don't get me wrong. Well, I want to know how that all came to be. And why I believe that wouldn't be classified is because he has gone on the record stating that funds came elsewhere.
Well, there is $7 trillion of missing Pentagon money too, as well.
Yeah. But you're not going to have, I mean, his title when he retired was the Director of National Program Special Management Staff. I do not believe somebody at that level has access to that $7 trillion or $12 trillion or whatever it is. And I'm not trying to be too facetious there, but I'm really making the point that, you know, again, even at the highest levels to slide money around, you know, that there's a reason why these checks and balances systems are there. And that's why funds are often found missing. You know, I mean, yeah, it makes you laugh that so many trillions of dollars are out there, but they discovered that because of the checks and balances system. So you have to give them some credit that they are watching it. It may be too late, a day late and a couple $1 trillion short. But that being said, they're at least discovering that. So as we kind of progress through the years, I mean, and I'm guessing you're calling back to the pre-9/11 2001 statement,
right?
That, you know, trillions of dollars, and that's fine. A lot of and that was all happened, and it's true. But fast forward now to 2016, 17, 18, things are a little bit different. You know, things are much more under the microscope. Mistakes still happen. Funds are definitely misappropriated and all that. But when somebody comes out and puts on the record that they are doing something like that to continue a program that they believed in, that to me is a very big question on how that was able to come about. Again, I stress it's not questioning integrity or honor or anybody's service to our country. It's clarifying a very, very big claim that has now kind of been floated out there. And again, it really comes down to making sure that we're accurate. Because if I don't ask these questions, the next journalist that decides to do a story on this and they see all these red flags, they may not be as fair and balanced as that Newsweek article. You know, I mean, that journalist, Keith Clore, was the one that wrote it for Newsweek. He did a great job doing all sides and looking at, you know, who's involved watching Mr. Elizondo speak and who's involved with To the Stars Academy and going through all of these claims. But again, journalists that are doing their job are asking important questions. And as the days and months and now years are ticking on, as you don't have the answers to some of these basic questions about the bigger claims, I'm afraid that now it's going to have a negative impact on future stories involving UFOs and government secrecy. And I don't think that is benefiting the public by keeping this information away. If we're not ready and that's what they want to claim, I would highly disagree with that. And it could just come down to they claim they have evidence that they don't have in the form of the evidence that the DOD released these videos. So again, there's a lot of unanswered questions here that we as the UFO community should lock down first before somebody from the media really tears it up and says, well, you know, we thought this was a great story in December of 2017, but you know, this is getting a little ridiculous. And you've got a corporation collecting money from the public that's not necessarily being 100% truthful and open. Open is more the word I would use. And so that I believe may start to come back and bite all of us in the UFO community. And that's why I get passionate about asking these questions. And they're just that. We shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. And as you know, Jimmy, being in this field, we shouldn't be afraid to have questions asked of us. And anything that I say on your program or on my own program or anything on the blackvault.com or anywhere that I've, you know, spoken, I appreciate when somebody challenges what I have to say, because it keeps me on my toes to make sure that I'm not spreading BS myself, that I'm not under the false impression about something, that I can back up everything that I say in the form of actual real evidence that you can hold. And if I have just an opinion, I'll label it just that. It's my honest opinion of XYZ. But when I make a claim, I back it up. And I feel that we really need to push, not only to the stars, I don't want to pick on them only, but really make a push to ask people for evidence when they make these bigger claims, because it only benefits us all when we make those demands. If we ignore them and just kind of blindly pledge our allegiance to some of these efforts and claims, that comes back to hurt us. And my point, you don't even have to go back far in UFO history. Just go back to the Roswell aliens,
right?
That were touted as being, Roswell mummies. You've got the Gaia claims of Nazca mummies, and I mean, you've got a lot of different claims that have come about over the years. And I think that we just need to make an effort to make sure that when those claims are made, we ask for the evidence that goes along with it.
Have you? Is that even Lewis's signature?
I was curious about that. I don't know.
I don't know either.
When I saw this posted, I was curious if anybody at MUFON got him to sign something. And I was curious
right.
to, like cross-reference his autograph. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. This was on Chris Mellon's site. I don't want to say, yeah, it's probably fake. I want to know why. Again, there's red flags. We can dissect it all night long. But yeah, you've already pointed out spelling errors. Generally, when you see things from the DoD, and I've got thousands of examples, it's memorandum for the record, not memorandum for a record.
And it's
there's
undated.
A lot of red flags there, but
it's undated
and
too.
It's not dated. Yeah,
it's undated. No addresses on it, and no copy to, nothing else is referenced. So I don't know. Maybe the DoD has changed their letter formatting, but I thought all business letters, basically, you have an office, a number, an office number, an address, a building number. All of that is that, and none of it, and of course the address. Now, what did you make of? I've got 2 minutes left here, John, and thank you for this overtime.
Sure.
The other stuff that was downloaded off of Mellon's site, and I'm looking at them here. I'm not sharing any of this online, but one of the things I thought was interesting was the shot of these 4 DVDs, or no, they're disc. I don't know if officially if they're DVDs, but they're data disc. 104, 204, 304, 404, dated 9/5. I'm assuming September 5th, 2017. What do you make of that? Because it says unclassified U.S. government property.
Yeah, those are fairly standard CDs. I've received them quite often, even in FOIA requests. And the reason is because a lot of times, a DOD and related agencies will copy information from their system or a system and move it over. And so they have to differentiate between when something goes to a digital medium, whether or not it is unclassified or holds a higher clearance level. And then if it is higher clearance, there's routing, transmittal slips, top secret and secret and classified document handling procedures are, again, kind of geeky, but they're pretty fascinating. So that didn't surprise me because there's 1,000 explanations on why they would have that. I can show you quite a few that I've received over the years of the same thing. So that's kind of standard. So what exactly was on those CDs? Mm-hmm. It could be anything. I'm not really sure. But when they take home with them their own work, or if they're working on something unclassified, they plop it onto a CD, and that's probably what they're using. If that was the transmission of the videos themselves, I mean, maybe I think that's kind of the allegation out there that these are the CDs that they were able to get and the DoD released them.
That's what I read into it. That's what I read into it.
It's possible, but again, here's in the final seconds here. the Pentagon claimed that they did not release the videos, right? We've already established that.
That's right.
In order to get the videos out, he had to file what's called a DD Form 1910. I have filed FOIA requests for these forms. I have yet to receive them. Cases are still open. Regardless of all that, let's just say it's called a DOPSR process. Once the DOPSR process is completed, here's what the Pentagon says. Just because it's completed, and let's just say the approval was made for them to be released, that in itself is not authorizing the release. There is still another step after the DOPSR process, which according to the Pentagon, which was told to me in writing by the major from the Pentagon, that process was not complete. They would not verify whether or not the videos were real. I will say myself, I do believe they're real. Whether or not they're true UFOs, I have no idea, but I don't have any doubts to the videos. I have reservations about the audio on the videos. That's a different conversation, but I believe that maybe there was some doctoring on the audio, but that's just a gut feeling. Other than that, though, I don't really have doubts that the videos are not genuine. I think they probably are. The question mark is, though, what's the context of them? And on top of that, why wasn't the process completed? And if these CDs are those videos, then, was this a oops mistake that they did not follow the proper procedure? I'm not going to fault anybody for that. I mean, stuff happens, but let's make sure that we get all the accurate information. But at the end of the day, the Pentagon is denying that they ever released these things. So the question mark is, what really is the origin? And I do fall back on my criticism that they claim they have proof that the government released and authorized the release of these videos, but they will not show you. And I have a lot of problem with that, because when you make a claim this big and these videos are kind of interesting, why wouldn't you show that? And it's unfortunate, but that is what it is. That's what they're telling everybody, that they won't tell you, they won't show you.
John Greenewald, The Black Vault, theblackvault.com. John, thank you so much. We took it right up to the network break. I got to run credits, so you just stay right there. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. Thank you to John Greenwald, everybody that tweeted in tonight, and all of the email. Absolutely fantastic broadcast, which is owned and copyrighted 2018 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can also follow John at BlackVault.com. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow night we've got Julia Mossbridge here. Thursday night, Dean Radin. Until tomorrow night, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe. All right, stay right there. I'm just